Tonight, we got a very interesting conversation tonight. These are the kind of conversations we should have all the time, but we don't. This is the kind of stuff we should talk about all the time, just so we can sharpen our intellectual skills before we get down to the physical. Tonight, we are joined by Hondo Solomon, author of the Polygamist Papers, and we're going to discuss polygamy. Is it an upgrade to the system that we already have in place? And how polygamy can be used as an economic weapon in our favor. Please be reminded that the comments and the views of our guests does not necessarily reflect those of the management and staff of African Americans Ain't African. Joining me as always are my host, Rick Moon, who's having noise background in the back.
I'm driving right now. I'm on the road. I'll be home.
He'll be home in a minute. Nisi Lachelle from Memphis. Nisi, how you doing, sister?
Hey, how you doing? How y'all doing? Team, family, how you doing?
Great. And of course from Los Angeles, Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf, how you doing, brother?
Hey, what's up out there, everybody? Greetings, brother Hondo.
Hello, good evening.
Before we get into Mr. Solomon, I want to get this is a story that's going around on the net. And I want to get Mr. Solomon's views on that, as if any callers want to give us a call, please feel free to call and express your views. We're at area code 605-562-3140. Participant code is 240670. If you have something you want to add to this conversation, because a lot of times our views don't get heard. So come on and give us a call. We're going to get to your calls in a minute after after this brother introduces himself and tell us what he's talking about. But before we get in that, I want to direct this question to all the listeners, but I want you, Mr. Solomon, since we're talking about polygamy, what is what's going on. It was reported earlier last week or this week that a 40-year-old Houston woman with no potential husband in sight decided to marry herself. The ceremony was held now check this out. This is what I mean. The ceremony was held at the Houston Museum of African American Culture on Saturday, January 3rd. And included 10 bridesmaids and 3 ministers who assisted with the spiritual ceremony. She was walked down the aisle and given back to herself by her mother. Entertainment for the evening included live music provided by guitarist blah, blah, blah. She says, do not be afraid to take risks. I've learned that family or friends are always willing to welcome you back home, even if you decide to return. She married herself, Mr. Solomon. What is going on in the African American culture?
Well, I studied, something called physiognomy, which is the study of body language, different zones of the body to determine health and disease states of the organs, as well as the vocal inflections and the tone, pitch, and volume of a person's voice, handwriting, and it tells everything about a person's character and their spirit. And I saw the woman's picture, and then I looked at some photos of the wedding party, and I can see why she was led in her mind to marry herself. Let's put it like that. I'm looking at the people in the photo. They're not healthy on a physical level, which means they probably have trapped emotions. And if you have trapped emotions, you start to have physical health problems. And you can see it all in the photo. It's not just the weight, but there's other factors involved that we'd have to go into in another show. But nevertheless, what's going on is that people have not trained themselves for character development. They haven't engaged in character development, which takes years of time. You and I spoke on this before privately. And because people aren't doing that, they're finding it difficult to obtain and find mates, okay, either because they're too dysfunctional and or the other people that they're choosing are dysfunctional. There is no way that a woman, especially of marriageable age, cannot find a man to marry. a decent man. Now, for all the ladies listening, we're not just talking about going to marry any man. We're talking about decent men. The fact is, you may end up having to share a man, which is called polygamy. That's why we're here on this show tonight. But
before we get into polygamy, sir, tell us a little bit about yourself and your concepts and your ideology on polygamy. What is it, and how can it be helpful to the community, and how is it an upgrade to what we already have? But give us a little background on yourself first, please.
My name is Hondo Solomon. I'm the author of the booklet called The Polygamous Papers, Volume 1, An Introduction to Polygamous Culture and Its Principles, Pitfalls, and Ethics. It is tied for the second highest rated book on polygamy at Amazon.com. You can find it there. I have a sequel coming out called Polygamous Papers, Volume 2, Polygamy as Economic Warfare, a dossier on family rule and government. I grew up in a polygamous family in southeastern Michigan. As I got older, I do have experience in polygamy myself. Most of the people who I know and I am friends with are polygamists. I've done 30,000 hours of primary research on not only polygamy, but on traditional family systems. And that is a cross-cultural study that I've done on 5 continents. Okay, we're excluding Antarctica and the North Pole. What I found interesting is that, what's brought me to this point is that I've looked at the things that I was engaged in regarding ethics, etiquette, manners, and customs. And when I saw that what I was doing was not working, I took on a more traditional stance, which is why I now hold to these views on polygyny, specifically from an economic perspective, economic building, not pimping, not just sexing a bunch of women, but actually engaged in full-scale economy building. I've seen it work. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that is what I teach. That's the perspective that I teach from.
Well, what makes it work? Because when we normally hear about polygamy, I mean, first things first, the emotions fly. So what are the benefits of polygamy?
Well, first of all, you can have more children if you desire. From a medical perspective, women are ideally suited to have 3 children each. Okay. Yes, it is physically possible to have 10, 15 children. We all know some of our elders had, our elder grandmothers, aunts, they had 15 children. We've heard of this before. It was more common a few decades ago when the wombs of the women were physically stronger. However, that is not the ideal situation. What ends up happening is that the woman's life force ends up being depleted, and as they age, their aging rate actually increases. Okay, so I asked a sister one day. She's from North Carolina. I said, haven't you noticed that women who have the most children, they tend to age faster? And now she doesn't even like polygyny, and she said, yeah, you know what, you're absolutely right. But if you look at polygynous societies, the women usually don't have any more than 5 children each. But ideally, you should have 2 to 3. What ends up happening is the womb prolapses, and which means it sinks in the middle. It means it starts to sag. So the muscular structure that upholds the reproductive organs of the woman, it begins to wear out. Okay, and it begins to atrophy. And once it begins to atrophy, it causes other things to go haywire within her body. Namely, her voice becomes deeper because she's losing progesterone and she's gaining testosterone. Or if she's simply losing more progesterone, obviously the testosterone levels will remain the same, and they will eventually be more than what she's supposed to have. So she ends up getting facial hair. She loses bone density. She loses muscle mass. Her skin begins to lose elasticity. This is all medical fact, and I also trained with a medical doctor for 6 years. And I attended Chinese medical school. I study Ayurvedic medicine as we speak, and this, I'm coming from that perspective. So, in short, you can have more children, and you can create a larger legacy and a longer lineage and a bloodline when you engage in polygyny. what this ends up doing is creating a larger network of kinship bonds. And for those who are unfamiliar, a kinship bond is formed automatically when you marry a woman. And ladies, when you marry a man, you are exponentializing the power and the skills, the gifts, talents, and abilities of your family. Okay, so this goes into building businesses and building, a reputation for certain fields, including medicine, law, whether it's textiles, it can be agriculture, anything. You name it, you become known for that, and the potential is greater. Also, you end up centralizing power within the family. You end up saving money. Therefore, you end up being able to build upward and outward. For instance, instead of you sending, let's say if you have, a newborn, you have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Normally, you're going to put them in daycare. You're going to put them in nursery school. You're going to put them in kindergarten, respectively. You don't need to do that with a polygynous family because you're paying for daycare. And I know how much daycare costs. Daycare is at least $1,000 a month. I'm talking about a cheap daycare center. We're talking about, nursery schools. Nursery schools cost money. Public schools indoctrinate our children. Remember, this is a show about and created by indigenous people. So you end up being indoctrinated with Prussian values because the American school system, specifically the U.S. school system, was created off of Prussian principles, and we're not Prussian, okay? What it does is creates a herd mentality, and it literally dumbs down your children. There's a book by a man named John Taylor Gatto, who was the New York State Teacher of the Year 2 years in a row. I believe it was in the early 2000s. And during one of his speeches, he actually put the U.S. public school system on blast and said basically that it's useless. He then went on to write a book called The Underground History of Public Education. You want to look him up. His name is John Taylor Gatto. So you can educate your children from home. You can indoctrinate them with your own family's culture, meaning their religion, their way of doing business, their thoughts, missions, their goals, values. All of that belongs to you, and you're not paying other people to indoctrinate them with something else foreign to you. Okay? Remember, this goes outside of ourselves. This goes into making sure everyone is safe and sound. It ensures that we continue our legacy and our lineage, our bloodlines in a holistic fashion. This is the only way. This is the only way to maintain your culture. Okay, not through polygyny necessarily, but through bloodline. See, so you also deal with the woman's cycle. Okay, now I know in Hebrew culture, in many traditional societies, the woman is not, having sex with the man. She's not cooking and cleaning for about a week. Okay, I know in Hebrew culture it's exactly 7 days, and this is a medical issue. This is not shunning women or trying to oppress women. All right, this is a medical issue because any fluid that emanates from the human body becomes pathological when it exits the body. Okay, whether it's urine, blood, feces, sweat, pus, anything. All right. So at any rate, when the woman is on her cycle, the household doesn't have to shut down, or her particular role in the household doesn't have to shut down. There's going to be a maidservant or a concubine or an additional consort or a wife to take over her duties. I know that in some indigenous American societies, for instance, there would be a house set apart from the woman's house, apart from the community, and she would actually travel to those homes in order to rest during her menses or during her monthly cycle, and she would be served by other women in the community. See, so this stuff is part of our culture. This is not something that I'm not talking about anything new.
Yes, I got you.
Sure.
I got you, brother. I got you, brother. But check
Sure.
this out, man. We got sisters marrying themselves now. Now, in the African American culture, that'll be considered normal in a minute. It seems like all the dysfunction everything that we do that's dysfunctional will grab a hold on it. And it's like you said off the economic weapon number one, when you said that we spend $1,000 a month just in child care, that alone would be cause to say, hey, let me take a look at this. I know you got some more something else, how this polygamous relationships, how with the plight that's going on in our communities now, how could this be a boon for us? Then we'll get into, then hold on, callers, we'll get you right after this question. Mr. Solomon?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Oh, you were asking me.
Yes.
Well, the things that I just named are actually issues in this community. You know, everything I'm talking about is not some pipe dream. It's way over there in Africa, or it's way over there in some bygone society that we don't see anymore. In their civilizations buried under the dust. Everything that I just mentioned are present issues. Like I said, I've seen this. I've seen these things actually occurring. Every reason I just gave you, I've seen those problems solved through the use of polygyny. You can't actually solve those issues that I just named by engaging in what's called prescriptive monogamy. It's physically impossible. I'm talking about in real time. All right. So once we get outside of female jealousy, once we get outside of grown men talking about Jesus said we ain't supposed to do that when he never did. Once we get outside of people talking about things for selfish reasons, like men just want to lust after a bunch of women. We're supposed to lust after women. Women are gorgeous. They're designed that way for a reason. We're supposed to want them sexually. All right. So a lot of these people who say that, in fact, brother, it's ironic. Those are the same brothers who have a woman and they got 7 children with that woman. But you talking about lusting after, it's wrong to lust after a woman. But you married the woman because she had a small waist and big hips. But now you mad at brothers who can get 10 of those women with small waists and big hips. You can't say that. That doesn't even make sense. So
nature creates more women than men. Does that have anything to do with it?
Absolutely. Even if we did not want to engage in polygyny, okay, en masse, as a culture, you are forced to then ask yourself, what do we do with all these women? Hey, brother, I travel for my job. See what I'm saying? So I've lived in over a dozen states. I've traveled through most of the United States by land. So I've actually had to stop and speak with women and speak with men, and I've seen the landscape. Most of the time when I'm out, there are way more women than men. And I have discussed this issue with millionaires and even billionaires who travel internationally all of the time. And they, we're all laughing. They're like, well, yeah. They said, everywhere I go, there's more women than men. And they say, you're right, Hondo. Even if we didn't want to engage in polygamy, then what are we going to do with all those women? Plus, and this is them talking. These are men with means. These are men of means, and they're confirming that women chase after them even when they know they're married. So it's like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that women actually want men who are already married?
Hondo, check this out, man. A couple of years back, the golfer Tiger Woods, he was involved with, 20, 30 females. In American culture, is it normal that women a lot of times will go after one man? Even if they know this cat is married. In American culture, do women go after the same man often, or is that just something that happens haphazardly?
No, sir. There's nothing haphazard about female activity. Okay. Women, when they approach men, I'm talking about when they initiate contact with men, they are sizing up that man, they're talking to that man, and in many cases, brothers, they don't even ask the man if he's married. Sometimes they know he's married. I'm talking about with or without a wedding ring, because as you know, a lot of men will go out without the wedding ring. Some men choose not to wear a wedding ring at all, you see. So we have to ask ourselves, why are women going after these men? It's because it's natural for women to want the most powerful men in the community. It is natural. Now, due to the fact that we are under colonization, it's going to occur that you have unnatural reactions to it. So in other words, it's not going to be a strict polygynous system. Like, there's this big long courtship and, everybody's talking about, nation building and all that. No, these women meet this brother when he's out. Or, in Tiger Woods' case, let's put it like this. I work in the golf industry, okay? And I would say 99 out of 100 women that you see are some of are cream of the crop women, okay? That's because there's more money in golf than most sports aside from horse racing and dog racing, okay? Maybe race car driving. So you start talking about, women wanting men, they know these men are married. They already know. And if the man tells them that, or if he's a public figure, say, as Tiger Woods was, he's a polygamist. He's just not an acknowledged polygamist. They know who Tiger Woods was, but they did it anyway. Not because he had money necessarily. They probably weren't getting enough to live off of from him. But they wanted the status of being with the alpha male.
Right. Be able to tell their girlfriends they hooked Tiger Woods, huh?
Exactly.
Even if that, yes.
That's exactly what it is. Women prefer status even over money. See? And that's natural. And I'm not insulting women at all. This is natural for women to do. They want the best man. They want men who are in their prime. They want men who have established themselves as the best in whatever field that they're in. And that's why athletes, everywhere they go, they actually have women who follow them around the country. They're groupies. They would literally take vacation time from their 9-to-5 jobs to follow certain sports teams and the athletes.
Well, let's get a woman's view on that. Nisi, what do you think about that? Is that how women do it? Are they participating in polygamy but not calling it that, or just calling it what goes on with that, Nisi?
Well, everybody's participating in it, if that's what you want to label it as. I mean, it may be unofficial polygamy or whatever it is. None of this is brand new. It is just human nature to the extent that, women outnumber men, and, part of it is natural selection. I don't know. It's a lot of things. But as far as people choosing that as a lifestyle for them and their familiar, that's something that they have to make a decision about for themselves. So this is a good show to let them see that and to, look at it from a very structured standpoint. But, absolutely you have men and women with multiple children by multiple people, and it may be one guy in common with 3 to 5 different women. And what that has done, that's been to the detriment of our collective, because the children do not have fathers to the extent that they're not there. Now, that's the other part of it. So, we can talk about all this other stuff, but the really, really sad downside of it is that the fathers are absent. So if they don't want to practice polygamy, maybe they can do this. Maybe get all your kids together, get the baby mamas together, and have 2 days out of the month where everybody kind of fellowship and everybody knows that they're related to each other and they do stuff together, and he can be a father, without being very taxing to himself or something like that. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with a plan B in case they don't want to do, don't want to do that. But it's something that we need to think about, because all of this stuff is absolutely going on.
Hondo, she has a good point about the fathers not being there. Can you talk on that?
Right. Yeah, there are a lot of factors involved in why men in the corporation called the U.S. are not in the lives of the children. Now, I'm gonna kick some stats to you, okay? And it's gonna absolutely destroy what we've been given via propaganda. First of all, most men will not abandon their women and their children, even if they don't like the women and they're beefing. They don't want to abandon the children. You have to remember that we're up against a legal system that has law enforcement, which is a military force behind them. They have laws which are against natural law that are going against the men. And, men get tired. Men don't want, spend years and all of their savings and their work time, fighting through courses. Most men just don't want to do that. So that's why they say, well, if the women are going to take our children, which is to the tune of 92% of the custody cases in America, women are given mother custody for arbitrary reasons most of the time. Remember, these are real stats. So the men are at an impasse. See, so it makes it look like the men don't actually want to be around the children. But if you ask most men are going to say, yeah, I wish my children were with me, or at least if they lived in the neighborhood, But remember, men also travel more for work. Men work longer hours. Men work riskier jobs. So we tend to be more adventurous. We take more risk. And this also explains one of the reasons why when there is a dispute between the man and his former woman, his former consort, and they have children, that he is more comfortable with letting her take care of them. It has nothing to do with him wanting to abandon them. So that's just one of the reasons. But it's too easy to divorce in this land. It's too easy to have children and then say we don't have any type of obligation to one another. When the fact is you do have an obligation. But this is why the things that Sister Nisa was saying, this is why my work has some importance, because I'm trying to get people out of being sloppy and then thinking about our actions, because, I've done things in my past that affected me today. You see? So when I look back on that, I'm like, well, what do I need to do to not enter that situation, but also to help others, which makes sense. So, we need polygyny because polygyny is actually an intact system, and it's a very technical system, and it doesn't resemble the abandonment that Sister Nisa was talking about. But she pointed this out, and she also made another excellent point regarding the camaraderie between the women. If a man can bring those women together periodically and have them, share in the economics of his household, which is not his physical house, but his lineage, then that will actually help to heal some of these wounds. So she made a very, very good point on that note.
Lone Wolf, you're back and forth to Utah to check on your polygamous family. How's it going out there, brother?
Yeah, what's up, brother? Actually, I really don't know too much about polygamy, except for I've seen a couple episodes of this show they had on HBO called Big Love. I believe it lasted like 6 seasons. And also I know what I've read and seen some documentaries about Brother Fela Kuti. I think he has 15 wives. He's a revolutionary from Lagos in Africa. If I wanted to read and learn more about polygamy, you also have what? You have any YouTube videos, and can I have the address to those? And also, I wanted to know how I could buy your book.
My book can be found at Amazon.com. You just type in the Polygamous Papers, and you want to. There's actually a couple of different copies, but you want to get the one that has 30 reviews. My YouTube page, I have the most videos on polygamy anywhere on the internet. Is youtube.com/Hondo Solomon 7. Hondo Solomon 7, the number 7.
African.
Okay. And you said you have multiple videos on YouTube, and if I subscribe to your channel, do you still making videos or what?
I make them periodically now, but this summer I'm going to start making them on a weekly basis. So there's certain day of the week I will always have new videos.
Okay.
And they're going to be professionally done.
Yeah, I want to read up on that, man, to educate myself on that, man. I appreciate you, coming on the show too.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
Let's go to the phone. Let's go to the phone line 770. You had a question or something you wanted to add? 770. Okay. 313, you had something you wanted to add to the conversation? Okay, great.
313. Yeah, you had Detroit.
Okay, let's get back into this polygamy, Hondo.
I have something I want to ask, but I'm area code 404.
Okay, 404, go ahead.
I had a quick question. I had wanted to ask, have any type of research also has been done on what would be the economic value for women who marry multiple husbands? Like, can that bring an economic value as well?
It brings absolutely no economic value. That's called, that system you're talking about, sis, is called polyandry. And polyandry takes up less than 1% of the world's total polygamous marriages. Polygamous meaning plural marriages. Here's the thing with polyandry, okay? You're only able to gestate one child per year. And I know that we're used to in the West a woman gestating a child for 9 months, but technically you're supposed to gestate a child for approximately 12 months. And this is according to natural law and according to records found in some traditional societies who were untouched by colonization, because the woman is not only on a healthy diet that provides her with all the minerals that she's supposed to have to gestate that child that long, but she's also free of the unnatural stressors that are provided and given to her through this system that we're familiar with. Now, there are two types of polyandry. There's one called fraternal polyandry, where a woman will marry multiple brothers. There is non-fraternal polyandry, where the men are unrelated or they are not brothers. So in fraternal polyandry, that is also called Nair polyandry, after the region in India called Nair and the Nair people. And then you have, it's also called Tibetan polyandry, because Tibet has quite a few polyandrous families. But you find it mostly there in India. You also find it among the people in the Amazon basin, some of those tribes, and you find it in some places in China. It was a little more common in China in ancient times. But when you look at it from the perspective of what's happening in real time, there's absolutely no benefit. Now, just saying that, exactly why do people engage in polyandry in the first place? You have to look at those systems. First, those are in small agricultural villages. So when property rights are being issued to the sons, if they move away outside of that region, that leaves more responsibility to other members of the family, the tribe, or the clan. Or the brothers will have, or the family will have to sell that land. And you have to remember, the land is the most valuable non-human asset. It's the most valuable material asset in the world. I don't care where you go, whether it's modern West, the ancient East, anywhere. It's the most valuable material asset. So if you lose land, you lost the sustenance, part of the sustenance in this case, for your family. So her being able to only gestate one child at a time, and really you're not supposed to have sex while you're gestating a child. That's a lot of Western medical teaching that is telling women to have sex during gestation. But if this woman is gestating a child for a year, what are the other men supposed to do? You also have to look at it from the perspective that these are not polygyny and polyandry are not mirror opposites, meaning the purpose and the design of both systems is different. For instance, you will find in both matriarchal and patriarchal societies that polygyny is and always has been common. When you look at polyandry, in fact, the man is always right at the center of that type of relationship. We know we have clan members in indigenous societies, and we have lady chiefs and things of that nature. But and this is not a good nor bad. But when you look at polyandry, the woman is not necessarily heading that family. She's only there to facilitate a child. See, literally, this is not about romance. It's not about creating more children. It's not about nation building. It's never about that. And I'm talking from a primary documentary perspective. None of those societies, and I've seen interviews with polyandrous women, none of those societies are doing that for those reasons that I outlined in polygyny.
Let's take the polyandry question where the women have multiple partners versus the men who have multiple husbands. I mean, the men who have multiple wives versus the women who have multiple husbands here in America, here in the communities here in America. How does that pan out here when it's being done here? What are the normal implications of that?
Well, you already see many of the implications. First of all, and you hear it. See, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to teach from a 720-degree perspective. If you listen to how those types of women talk, the women who readily sleep with multiple men, and some of the simps and manginas who love to say, oh, well, man, she got a man, but, I'm just hitting that. These suckers, because they're not about family building. They're not trying to build nothing. They're just trying to get the rocks off. So when you listen to those types of women speak, even when they're knowledgeable about plural family systems and they try to push polyandry, they're not building anything. So what ends up happening is that they end up receiving the spiritual content of each man. And because she's taking on the spiritual content of each man, she her mind actually begins to shatter. Like I told you that I read body language, and I also listen to people's voice, vocal patterns. Okay, I can tell when a woman has slept with a lot of men just by talking to her.
How can you tell?
Let's see. How can I explain this in a few seconds? There is a lack of emotional integrity and mental integrity. So in other words, there will be a lot of contradictory statements emanating from the exact same paragraph. Okay? Now, some of you out there who I've spoken with, I know you're listening in, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She'll say one thing, and then she'll turn right around and say something which directly contradicts that same thing. And some people think this is too simplistic, but it's a very easy way to tell. Mm-hmm. I've caught women like that, and I said, well, sister, you do know you just said A, B, and C, right? And they're like, yeah, well, and then she'll try to jump to the next thing, and it sounds absolutely nuts. It doesn't make sense, but a lot of times the men are trying to make sense of it, but you can't because there are too many spirits inside of them. See, what I'm talking about, too, is on an occult level, all right? And I trained in the occult as well when I was a boy. I was actually trained in the occult, and these things are what occultists know. This is why virgins are so prized and valued in a society. You see, because there's going to be too much inside of that woman, and she would be trying to key into different men's value systems, even if she slept with a man 30 years ago. Okay, let me give you another example. To see what is going on today, you ask for modern implications. First of all, women are not designed for that according to the vaginal construct. Okay, so you see acidosis or an acid buildup in her vagina when she sleeps with multiple men, especially if they've ejaculated inside of her. You see, and then they're going to have different cells from the penis inside of her as well, because of the friction being caused during sexual activity. You have those men's sperm battling one another for space inside of her womb, and they're fighting for the same egg, which causes confusion. Remember, your DNA is a spiritual construct. It's just housed inside of a physical construct. It's put inside of a house, just like we're spirits inside of a body. You see? So you don't have two spirits inside your body. You have one. So a woman's womb is only supposed to house one spirit. See? And that's supposed to be the man as far as her connecting and then creating a child. You also see women coming out with multiple children, children from multiple men, which is sloppy. Okay? We need to just call it what it is, because you can't build anything like that. In no society, there's no society on record anywhere, and I have looked and searched far and wide, and I've asked people who even support polyandry. I said, present to me a society where it was considered, where a woman who had children from multiple men was considered a high value, a high prize. And they couldn't name one. I've actually had people curse me out because I asked a simple question. I said, but wait a minute, you support polyandry. You should be able to find a precedent. See, this is natural law. If you state anything, you can find it in nature. And if you can't find it in nature, it's unnatural, period. Okay? So, at any rate, you find these women with children from multiple men, and what ends up happening is that she becomes bitter and angry because these men are either there or they're not there, but she has to make time to have those men come through and see the children, to pick up the children, and then those men, whoever comes in and actually marries the woman, and the children are there, those men have to take on the spirits of other men. See, this is a matter of legacy. We need to get away from all this sentiment because what we're talking about tonight is economic warfare. It is literally combat. And in combat, you will get yourself and your comrades killed for being sentimental.
Area code
so you can't be sentimental.
Area code 605-562-3140. African Americans Ain't African Radio. We're here with Hondo Solomon. We're talking about polygamy. Hondo, the things you just said about, you know, the relationships, the polyandry relationships and the polygamy, women look at it from a totally different way, especially sisters raised here in America. They look at it, I guess, you know, it goes back to the sister who married herself. You know, if you can do it, I can do it. And a lot of women seem to think that's how it is. Is that how it is in nature? Do the female of any species in the natural world, do they do what males do?
You saying that's in reference to caller 404's question, basically. She was asking about the multiple husbands, like that?
No.
Okay. Caller 404, I'm sorry, I just want to say I remember your voice from my social media episode, which Brother Buck is going to upload tonight. I was just going to say real quick before she left, I was thinking after I educate myself in polygamy, you know, reading Brother Hondo's book, maybe we could build and see what we could come up with, you know. But let's take the old-fashioned method, you know, with multiple wives instead of husbands. Okay, Brother Buck, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk to 404. She's a faithful caller.
So Brother Terry, what are you asking me? So,
I like to hear the females talk about it because I realize that we're too different. We're too different, and it seems we're two different species. But it seems like we're trying to blend into one, and that's why I was saying the sister who got the Houston thing. It's like we're trying to blend into one. We can be, the brothers want to be the sisters now, and the sisters want to be the brother now. What?
Okay, brother.
What does that play on us? How does that play on us?
Brother Kerry, if you look in nature and if you look in warfare, and I'm going to stick to the military construct, everyone has a role. You do not go outside that role, ever. Okay? In nature, people, you know, the man and the woman, the male and female rather in nature, they do what they're supposed to do. Human beings are the only living things on planet Earth that rebel against their nature. And if anyone disagrees, please bring up any type of example, any example of animals, trees, even rocks, because rocks are made of minerals, which are also living things. You name anything in nature that goes outside of its natural role, and then we can go further with with your point.
Check.
All right. So men and women have to do what we're designed to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it actually shows an unsettled spirit and mind and a shaky emotional state when you are discontent with your natural role. Okay, even as a man, when I move among other men and we're getting something done, where there's a task to be completed, I don't move outside of my role within the group. I don't. I'm very comfortable doing what I do. When I play basketball, okay, and when I used to play more often, I played my role. I was a defensive specialist, and I was very fast, so I knew how to get to the hole. I didn't try to play point guard. I didn't try to go and play center. That's outside my role. So the question is, Brother Kerry, why should anyone, man or woman, beg for something which you are not ideally suited to, because we like to get emotional. Well, if y'all can do it, we can do it. You got to stop saying that, because remember, we're in warfare. This discussion is about economic warfare. You have a role to play. Everybody, man and woman.
Area code 770. Nixie, we're gonna go to you next. 770. You had a question or something to add? Okay, Nixie, go ahead.
Okay. Something I had thought about. Let me see how I want to frame this. Is there what is the structure, I suppose, that's set in place to continue with the familiar, even though it's set up in a cooperative kind of way, on the same manner with a new husband / father in the event of the husband's untimely demise? Would the wives continue amongst themselves to find somebody new with their children? Or how would that work? Maybe.
There's a couple of different ways that can be handled, and what you're talking about is actually that's something I do address in Polygamy as Economic Warfare in the book coming up in September 2015. It's that is what's called an estate or a will. Okay, that should be something that the man has to set up. And what this does, I'm about to get real deep, because that's a deep question. If the man has set up something with another family or a clan or a tribe for all of his women and children and his possessions, his estate, to be taken care of in the event of his demise, then that should be set out in a will. Now, family, that should never be discussed between he and the women. What this does, it keeps things discreet, and it also prevents things such as foul play or murder from occurring, because you never know when another man from another family is trying to get the women. He's trying to obtain those women and the man's land, his possessions, his animals, his cars, his homes. See, so the man has to keep that a secret among himself, and in the event that they tie into the Western system, between he and his attorney or his law firm. Okay, what that does, a wise man, when he puts it up, you already have it in place. There's a case that I heard of, someone was sharing with me, where when the man passed away, the women actually, there was nothing like I just described in place. However, the women were so close with each other, they said, we have to find another husband, and we want to be sister wives. And they went, and I don't know if they found another family, but that was their goal. They didn't want to separate, because I think those women had been married to the man for quite some time. So, and they were a little older too. So, they don't want to get, break up that camaraderie that you mentioned earlier, Sister Lucy. With the children, because they may be close, the man has a mind to that too. And I think it's a good idea that if all the family members are very close and bonded, he should try to keep them together, or at least divide them among families that are also in league with each other. And this would be called a tribe. Okay, tribalism has to be returned to in order to maintain those kinship bonds. So what this also ensures too is that the women are taken care of, because a lot of times when the man passes away, the women are just left with, well, what are we supposed to do? Because the plan was not enacted, or maybe he did plan it out, but it hadn't gone into effect yet, or he hadn't finished his planning yet. And this is why men, and I'm talking to the men now, if you plan on having a polygamous family, you need to have all this stuff in your head and in your spirit ready to enact when you are obtaining even one consort. You need to have that stuff in place and start to make ready, because we don't know what will occur to us down the road. We may live to be 100. You never know, 120. But in the event of our demise, as Sister Nisa is brought up, you need to have something. You need to have something in place to take care of your children and your possessions, and make sure they're divided properly among people who are spiritually, mentally, emotionally suited to handle that. This also stretches into a question of how we form tribes. men need to form tribes, with like-minded families, and the sisters sometimes can initiate this. The sisters can say, go to the men and be like, hey, have you thought, we link with that tribe because we've been fellowshipping with them. We share the same values. It's okay if women initiate ideas to build a family. This is not something where the men tell the women to shut up and go in the kitchen and make dinner and just sit there barefoot and pregnant. I mean, women are an integral part of the family. So hopefully I dealt with the question succinctly enough, Sister Lisa. There's more to it, but I don't have time for it.
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Doing research on ancient history, I have yet to run into any indigenous group pre-patriarchal that were sister wives. They were monogamous.
Okay, I don't know when you came to the show, sister, but I actually addressed both of those points.
Yes, but what I'm basically saying, and I'm not, trying to get all into it, but I think it's more patriarchal than anything because the females here in the females here in North America, they were business women, inventors. They were very smart females. Okay, and they were very.
So let her talk, brother. Let her talk, Hondo. Go ahead, ma'am. Ma'am?
They were not walking around barefoot and pregnant. These sisters had children. These sisters had lots of land. So I'm just only saying me, according to what I have studied. And I've done this looking at the, concubinage and all this other stuff. No, sir, there were no harems here pre-Columbia, pre-Columbus or whatever. I'm just saying from what I've been able to research.
Let me be clear on something. When I say something, I need everybody to really pay attention because I actually addressed everything.
Sir, I paid attention.
Let me finish. Let me finish because you just said your piece. Now, I've been doing this a long time. I grew up in this, and I've done 30,000 hours of primary research. 30,000 hours. Now, unless you got 30,000 hours or anywhere approaching that. And then on top of that, you need to pay attention to what I said about women being barefoot and pregnant. I was not.
Let's start with your hours. Okay, I understand, brother, but start with the hours.
Hold up. Excuse me. Come on, check this out. This is what I mean, Hondo. So if we got multiple women, and this is what we're doing on a male female level. How does that shit work, man? How does that work? Because we've been conditioned, we've been trained, whatever we doing now, nobody's happy in that. So this is the basics. We can't even communicate male and female. How are we going to do it 5 and 6 women to one man? That ain't explain.
Well, here's the thing. I'm picking up a lot from my voice. Remember, I was trained by military personnel to do this, so I know what I pick up through someone's voice. Okay, and I know when someone is just trying to, this is what it is. Well, look, the fact is, nature creates more women than men. Okay, so to try to say that we were strictly monogamous. Now, think about this in real time. Okay, let's lay this out, and I'm not even, putting nobody on blast or nothing. Let's just think about it mathematically. There has never been a point in history where you're talking about hundreds of millions of people, even billions of people on a planet, where there's literal mathematical 1-to-1 ratio where there are no additional women of marrying age anywhere in the world, where they were just sitting around, even if there were, they were just sitting around for decades on end, with no man to marry because everybody was just monogamous. Let's think about that mathematically. Oh, and also I need to point out that at one point in my life, I actually promoted prescriptive monogamy, the same as the sister who called in. So I know the arguments. Okay, I've heard that argument. I remember that argument. All right, but it doesn't make sense when you lay it out mathematically in real time. Okay, you can't have, and in no place in history has it ever been normal for a bunch of women to sit around unmarried for long periods of time. Okay, except here. I mean, obviously, but to say that all pre-Columbian societies were strictly monogamous is untrue, because I come from the Quechua tribe, and I know for a fact that we were polygynous and monogamous. We practiced both before Columbus. I know that for a fact. See, now those are my people. I get the intel from my own people. So you're talking about at least one. I know the Lenape people, and I'm getting this from them as well. Remember, primary evidence. I'm getting this. They didn't practice polygyny. All right, I'm not saying that every single culture practiced polygyny, but most did on some level, even if it was just the chief of a tribe, or it was just, the king of that land, or it might have been just some dignitary or some wealthy man, as 1 out of 1,000 people. But we can't say that it didn't ever happen pre-Columbian society, because it just, in every society was not matriarchal. You have to remember, matriarchy and patriarchy occur in different contexts. Patriarchy is primarily there in times of warfare. When you look, there's a book called Saharasia. Okay, it's a pretty thick book. It's called Saharasia, and he outlines how patriarchy evolved during warfare. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. We're not talking about that. I'm just saying that polygyny exists in both matriarchal and patriarchal societies, and it is not there to oppress women. So there's nothing wrong with it. It just is what it is. Okay. So when you start talking about, women having businesses, yeah, I know that. I mean, this is what I've been discussing from the moment we started the show. I've been saying that families should have businesses. I know women own land. They do it in Hebrew society. They do it in most traditional societies. Women are actually allowed to have some measure of land. That's given to them, in fact, upon their marriage. And in some cases, when they're not married, they actually are allowed to own land. So I don't know where that came from, but there's nothing wrong with women owning land. I actually stated in no uncertain terms that women should be engaged in business in the household. So where's that? I mean, it's like building a wall of defense where there is no attack. There's a lot of energy being spent there.
Rick Moon.
Can I say something?
Yes. 1 second, ma'am. I want to take this to Rick Moon real quick. Rick Moon, you have a daughter, and she's telling you she's in a polygamous relationship. What do you say to that? Okay, Rick Moon's not there, ma'am. It's your turn.
Because I think I kind of understand what the caller was saying. Because as you guys were saying, like everything pre-patriarchal, before pre-patriarchal, it was looked at as the egalitarian, like an equal society where men, egalitarian society where men and women, both had the same amount of freedom. So with the introduction of patriarchy, everything is we have to keep in mind that everything is an exchange process. So when patriarchal was introduced, it was essentially to benefit the man, because you have to ask what benefits are the man getting. So I think what the caller was trying to say is, if we're talking about polygamy, right, the man is definitely getting an exchange because, like you said, he'd be able to have multiple wives and do different things. So a lot of people can look at that as, if, will it not just be him getting the benefit of produced labor in making babies? Like, that's what the man would be getting. But what type of benefit, aside from being married, and I guess being taken care of, if we want to look at it in that aspect, with the female be getting? I think that's what she was trying to say.
Okay, but once again, this goes back to paying attention, because the first 30 minutes, I went on and on about how it benefits women. I mean, I went on and on how it benefits
Brother
women.
Hondo. A lot of people don't come on when the show first starts. They may have came on later.
I understand that. But even with the even with, because the sister that she's speaking of, she said that she heard me in the beginning. See? So I'm paying very close attention, Brother Kerry, to what people are saying. I'm putting things in place. I'm putting things in timeline in relation to the show. What I'm saying is that if the sister heard me, there was, as this sister just said, that there's no way that she missed me delineating all those benefits for women, because that was the first question you asked me. See? So we need to gotta go into the economic warfare aspect. All this stuff is this old basic basement level type stuff that I've done over the interviews. I'm here to discuss the economic for people who are already supportive, people who are actually interested in doing, or at least knowing enough about the second level. See, the book is there. My first booklet is there for people who want to go and try to argue these little basic points, especially if it's coming from a feminist or womanist perspective. That's what the book is there for. I got 50 YouTube videos for that. I'm talking about the actual operation and application of polygyny in a modern context right here and now.
Okay, so you say polygamy builds power.
Exactly.
Explain.
Okay, aside from the things that I delineated earlier,
I'm talking about as for economic power. So we want to get in that.
Sir, part of the economic power was saying some of the things I delineated, because you can't have power if you have everybody worn out and if someone else is educating your children with their culture. That's economic power. In fact, economics has about 10 facets to it, meaning sexual, industrial, you have commercial, you have religious, you have spiritual, you have social, you have agricultural, you have medical. It's all these other systems coming into play. So when you talk about economics, for instance, in polygyny, you can have people with different talents who hold down different areas of the home, and they all have an emotional attachment to the family. Okay, meaning that if you say have a doctor in the family, she's say an MD. You got somebody who's brought up in the Western medical system. She's an MD. In fact, I know a sister who's actually in medical school right now who is, gung ho about polygyny. She's like, look, I can offer these skills to my family. She said, if I have my own practice, I will have more freedom to help my family. Okay, so you have that. If someone is everyone, for instance, what was the example I brought to you, Brother Kerry, the other day? I said if everybody, for instance, let's say if a man has one woman who's a jewelry designer, another one who is a seamstress, and then he has ideas. They can come together, three of them, and they can build a business. So now you have finances coming in. You have your reputation that is going to propel you into the next several generations at least. You can raise up your children with those skill sets. That way, when your children are of age, they are building on top of your shoulders. They are not starting from the bottom. For instance, if you're in the textile industry, they're talking about I want to be a rock star or a rapper. Okay, you can be a rock star or a rapper after you build this textile industry, because this is what we do. This is what this family is known for. That way, you're not breaking that pattern. Okay, so that's economic power. The things I'm discussing are on a high spiritual level. So a lot of things that I'm being asked have to be understood from that perspective first, and they're not always direct answers. It's something that real students are going to understand. This is something that I've been building on for many years, and I've seen it work. See, that's the thing. This is not theory. I've seen it work. I've done it myself. So I guess it's plain as day. In other words,
Mr. Yes, Hondo. Let's talk about character development. Because it's like you say, we have to think beyond what we always think, that, like you call it, gutter basement type mentality. Let's talk about the character development. What kind of development do you have to even go into something like this?
Well, first of all, you have to be selfless. All that competitive streak people got. No, you can't even approach the issue even when you're not trying to engage in polygamy. You can't even approach the issue and discuss it if you are envious, jealous, you're into white Jesus, Western Christianity, things like that. You can't even do it because all those things are external based, and and once it's external based, based on like possessions and getting stuff, or it's self-centered, and you have to be other-centered in order to be a polygamist. And when I say a polygamist, I mean that the women who support polygyny and the man who is a polygamist himself. So you're going to have to have an even temperament, all right? Because especially with men, if you have multiple women around, even if they're in separate homes, each woman is different. You can't deal with your first consort the way you deal with your maidservant, or deal with your third consort. You can't deal with them the same way. And you have to understand, you have to be able to adjust quickly. So if they're all in the same room, let's say you're all having dinner, you got a lot of personalities flying around. And you have to end up in those situations time and again until you pass those tests, until you've seen women women of different personality and character traits, or levels of character, I should say. You need to be able to deal with them properly. In other words, if one has experienced a death among her kinsmen, okay, she's not very talkative at the table, okay, and then your other one, let's say you and her just had some beef about a matter, about a serious family matter, and then you may have had a regular 9 to 5, and then you lost that, and you haven't built the family business up to its full potential yet. These things, I have seen these things happen. And I'm gonna tell you something. It's interesting because the way you handle that as a man is going to determine the outcome of how those women view you. So I believe that every man should go through and pass certain tests of his will and of his character, and then develop his personality and engage in self-development before he engages in polygyny. Right. I mean, to go through all the examples would take a lot of time, but that's it in a nutshell.
Brother Hondo, in the ideal world, say if everyone educates themselves and gets into polygamy, where would you want, or where do you see this going? What's your ideal goal in the next 10, 20 years?
You said, what is my ideal goal?
Yeah, what's the perfect scenario? Like, where do you want to take this?
Take what exactly? Take my work? Take polygyny? I mean, what?
Yeah, and that as a whole, what's your ideal goal? What do you want to do with it?
The ideal world. How would the ideal the polygamous world? How would that work?
There's no such thing as ideal polygamous world. Yeah, that's another thing too. We have to totally remove ourselves from Western polygamous propaganda, which sometimes the leaders say it's got to be like this. It's got to be like, it's got to look like this. Oh, and every family is going to look different. Every family is going to handle their own private affairs differently. The main thing is for everybody to understand what polygyny is, and then do it to the point where people are not being harmed. Because what you're seeing a lot of people trying to do now is actually hurting a lot of people's feelings. You're seeing a lot of trust being broken. You're seeing people cheating. Because even polygamous men, if you have, say, 2 consorts, you shouldn't be out with every other woman and your women don't know. I mean, that's not polygamy. See? So the whole point is to have a system, a scientific system in place whereby everybody wins, you, the women, and the children. All right? Mm-hmm. And if that is not being carried out succinctly and to the letter, that's when you're going to have a problem. All right? So this is the whole purpose of my work. It's to dispel the mythology. That was what the first booklet was about. And then to actually build wealth. I mean, no family should ever be homeless. I've never even heard of a homeless polygamous family. Now, what's interesting is that in the United States, we have the most homeless people of any country in the world. And we are not by far the largest country. And I'm talking about the corporate state. All right. And after doing research on homeless populations in this country, you find that it is primarily unmarried men who make up most of the homeless population, and then it is homeless women, and it's homeless women and homeless children. I mean, these are just children who are just out on the street, right? If you have a growing number of monogamous families, you have a growing number of monogamous families who are going out into the street. But I've never heard that for polygamous China anywhere in the world, except for displacement via famine, plague, pestilence, warfare, and natural disaster.
813, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say I'm driving right now, so I apologize if there's any static noise in the background. But I want to understand the brother. And I had not tuned in for the entire show. I kind of caught like the last 15, 20 minutes of it. And I want to make sure that I'm understanding personally what he's saying. One of the things that I understand, I think, is that you're talking about tribes, you're talking about communities, you're talking about us working as a cohesive group of people to make a change, to do something different from what we have been taught and what we have been doing in the current construct for centuries. So we need to actually do something different. So what is that different thing going to be? That's going to be everyone putting their resources, their skills, their abilities, their innate attributes that Mama Earth provides us. We're putting all these things together to develop some type of self-sustained or I don't like that whole alternative community bullshit because it shouldn't be alternative. Everything in nature is right now and it's real. In saying that, that would be a beautiful thing. I consider myself as an elder because I'm way over a half a century, so-called, according to Roman times. So the community in that essence, I would love to be a part of that because as an elder, I would want to help educate our children on our indigenous reality. I would love to do that, and I would be a proponent of that. But brother, when you apply this title, this label of polygamy to what I think you're referring to, and correct me if I'm thinking outside of that, but what I think you're referring to is something I just explained or brought forth. But when you apply this term polygamy to it, that is, to me, and I'm sure other sisters, because I heard a sister earlier that, expressed her, and it's real about the matriarchal society, but when you apply a label or a term that has or carries a negative connotation to it, you're going to damage or you're going to undermine whatever positive idea that you want to bring forth. So maybe and I don't know because again, I've only been listening for like the last 15 to 20 minutes. So if you're talking a cool society, a cohesive society where everyone is working together, and especially females, we have that power, that energy. We're on that frequency. We're creators. We're givers of life. We're all these things. And when we put that into motion, and we have the males that's able to protect us and provide that format, that form, whatever you want to call it, for us to be able to exercise our strengths, we can take this planet back. And this is some real talk. However, again, if you're referring to it in that aspect, I would implore you to add a different type of understanding to it in terms of what you call it. Because if it's not, because when most females, when they hear that word polygamy, brother, they hearing some negative shit. To me, when I hear the word polygamy, I hear a negative to me that means I'm a man. I could do what the fuck I want. I could have all the females I want. Whatever it is. Okay? But to me, it's negative. To a lot of females, it may be negative. And if that's not where you're coming from, if you're coming from the paradigm of us being cohesive and building tribes and villages and communities and nations, then you need to come up with a different, and I don't like labels, I don't like titles or none of that, but make sure that you bring forth that information versus what you want to call it.
Sister, with all due respect, we've been on here an hour and 20 minutes. It did come in 15 minutes ago, and I did address all that.
I'm just saying, because basically I heard what the sister was saying, and she talked about a matriarchal society. She talked about all the power that females do possess.
Okay,
and I heard I also heard you just say in summary, because the brothers had asked you, where are you going with this? And I heard you say in summary as well. So, to me, and this is just my opinion, fact, everybody has an opinion.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is Young Yahoo out of Atlanta. I've been sitting here listening for a while. What's going on there, Master Hondo? How you doing, sir?
Excellent. How are you, sir?
I'm just fine, thank you. This is an excellent show, and I appreciate the brother and his crew for putting this together. Thank you very much, because it is something that we need to discuss. I believe in a wider, broader form. I think Hondo, this is a discussion. This is not no slight at the women, but this discussion needs to be held, I think, specifically amongst men first, because there's a lot of terminology. There's a lot of
let them finish.
There's a lot of terminology. There is a lot of concepts and ideas that resonate differently within the female brain and the male brain, okay? And I'm not saying that anybody's better than anybody else. I'm not saying anybody is greater than anybody else. But what I am saying is we think about and process information differently, okay? And what I've noticed is when we have these types of discussions, when women are present, and this is not a slight at the women, but because the idea of it is so foreign to women, they immediately, especially westernized women, they immediately bucket, or they create these red herring conversations, and we start talking about, I don't know what we're talking about, and we get off topic, okay? And I think that if we're going to progress and we're really going to understand how polygyny works in both family and society, the leaders of family and society, which would be particularly the men, because I don't subscribe to egalitarianism, and I won't go into why that is, but particularly the men are going to have the basic structure and the foundation, and that's what Hondo has laid out, is laying out in his works, in his books, and the Polygamous Papers, if you haven't checked it out, it's a great book. We call it booklet, Hondo. But we're attempting to lay this out, particularly for men and women. But men, because men are the ones who are going to build, maintain, and protect both family and society. Okay, and I agree with the sister that women do have this awesome creative energy, that it needs a place to be, it needs a place to grow, and it needs a place to be actuated. It needs to be brought to life, and that won't be brought to life. It won't be made manifest if the men have not created the atmosphere and the environment for it to grow. You see, in order to do that, men must do that. Yeah, in order to do that, men must do that within a man's space, within a man's sphere, okay, which is absent, and I know you sisters don't like this, but which is absent of female opinion, idea. Listen, we don't need that. We are trying to build because we are in a state of war. And I think Hondo, what he said a while ago or earlier, is it's not about, how we feel, right? It's not about our emotions. This is about what needs to be done, okay? This is warfare. There is very little room to be having these long, drawn-out, round-table discussions because while we're talking, our enemies are fighting against us. When we're at the round table with our women and some of our men fighting each other, okay? So I'm like, listen, if we want to see our condition, our complete condition as blacks in America or African Americans or however you want to call it, I prefer Hebrew. But if you want to see our condition change, we are going to have to change the way that we process information amongst ourselves and how we implement information. And sometimes that means not everybody needs to be present at the round table, okay? Because if everybody's present at the round table, all we keep doing is going around and around, and nothing gets done. And something has to get done. And see, men are doers. After a while, fellas, we can't keep talking. We got to do something. Because if we keep talking, our enemy's going to keep busting us upside the head. And we keep wondering why we can't get done, or why nothing won't change. Hey, we're not doing nothing. We got to move. We have to take action, right? And that's what our women seem to not understand. Our women are okay with talking about this thing into oblivion, right? They will talk about this. Hondo, how many conversations have we had?
Let's give the sister 754. She wanted to add something. This is the sister that started the conversation.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, I just wanted to say that whoever wants to engage in this type of lifestyle, that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that. That's not what I was getting at. What I was getting at was that when he was saying concubinage and using our reference of our women, that's not so. That's all I was saying is that I do not like that title for our mothers to be known or because they were, hang on. They were not concubines. Our mothers were not concubines. Like I said, our mothers fought in the wars just like the men did. Our mothers were creators. Our mothers were not sitting.
We're getting crazy. Now we're getting...
Brother. Excuse me, brother. Come on.
I'm sorry.
See, come on. Hold up, please. Just please, check this out, man. We trying to communicate, brother. All that back talking, let her finish. We can't even respect these. You talking about we at the round table because we got to stay here because we can't communicate with each other. Let the sister speak. You have the floor.
Please, continue. Please, I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I'm okay. I'm done. Finish your show, sir. I'm finished. Thank you for listening to me. I'm finished.
Nisi, take us home.
Brother Kerry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to stress again for everybody listening. Let me tell you something. I can't describe what I've gone through just to get this information. I have lost family members just them knowing I'm researching information. It strikes a chord. And these are the same people who could benefit from it. I've seen people destroyed. In some cases, this is not, polygamy is not a panacea, but in some cases it is. All right. I've seen people destroyed because of selfishness and because they didn't want to listen. I am not here to talk about how people feel. I am here to talk about the solutions that I know for a fact work. And if people don't like the word polygyny, that actually, I'm talking about in real time, when the sun sets, it doesn't matter if you don't like the term. If you don't like the term concubine, some cultures have concubines. I didn't say every indigenous tribe had concubines. And if people don't like that, then that's tough cookies. I'm just have to keep it real. Some people have concubines, they do. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be a concubine. This is about economic
Well, sir, what is
warfare.
a concubine?
When
Can you give the
engaged,
group the
why am I
definition?
being interrupted? Yes, I can, but do you mind being less hostile and not interrupting me? And I'm asking you, and I'm trying to be as nice as I can because I've heard all the likes I don't like. I've heard this stuff for years. You don't have to like a term. A concubine, that you can't interrupt me so I can then go on your page and then define it in the middle of what I'm saying. That's rude, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not even going to entertain it. That's not what I'm here for. Okay,
Mr. Solomon.
If you in fact, hold on, brother kid. If she did not know what concubine is, logically speaking, there's no way that she could say that our people did not have concubines. See, this is what I'm saying, brother. I listen to what people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I listen to what you were saying, sir. A concubine is. I know what a concubine is, sir.
Why are you raising your voice to me? Seriously.
You interrupted me.
No, I didn't. I waited until you were
7-5.
finished. I didn't. I mean, let's.
Mr. Solomon, one more thing. Give us, with the polygamy, talk about Utah. These Mormons, and they live their lives in polygamous conditions. Mm-hmm. Explain what that culture is like up there, and what have those people built up there doing that type of lifestyle?
I mean, it's very simple. They've done exactly what I was saying in the very beginning, first hour of the show, what people should be doing. And they either get a large house, because, see, those men who are doing that, they generally are ranchers, they're farmers, they are industrialists, like, they'll have like a carpentry company or a construction company. They're doing things that produce large amounts of money contractually. Okay, if you're a rancher, because I spent part of my childhood on a farm, and when you have a ranch or when you have a farm, sometimes you can contract with the government. Sometimes you can just sell out parcels of land, whatever it may be, food, animals, and you gain a large amount of money very quickly. Now, what they're doing with the women is the women all have their own gifts and abilities, just like I said, and those women hold down certain parts of the household economy, which is what I said earlier. Everything that I said, that's what they're doing. And the reason they're not being arrested, if anyone is wondering, is because polygamy is not illegal. Bigamy is illegal, meaning that you have two or more of your consorts on state papers. Now you have a problem because the government views you as taking their money. But you don't see polygamous families being arrested for engaging in polygamy. And if anyone's wondering about Warren Jeffs went to prison for having sex with underage girls, not because he was a polygamist, right? But Brother Kerry, that's what they're doing. They're engaged in a collective economy that allows them to build and maintain power in the most efficient manner. And plus, Utah has a lot of land, so if the family owns land, because many of the women coming into those families are wealthy. Not all of them, but a good number of them they're coming from wealthy families. See, so they're forming kinship bonds to further build a clan and a tribe. You understand? And this doesn't have anything to do with pimping, because you ain't selling your women to the highest bidder or any bidder, and you actually care about those women. Those Mormon men, one thing I can say about them, they generally care for the women, okay? And they want to see the women safe for the most part. But, of course, the media propagandizes those few who are evil and engaging in rabid behavior.
Polygamy as a way to build economic power. Polygamy as a way to build economic power. I mean, like the sister was saying earlier, this is something we have to do. We have to build these nations, y'all. We have to build these nations.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead,
ma'am. Brother Solomon. Particularly like when you're on a dating scene, or for anybody that's on a dating scene that believes in the concept of polygamy, my question is, how do you present this concept to the sisters? Because, like you said, the average sister probably wouldn't be open to this. So, how would you present that concept if you were on the dating scene?
Well, it's both direct and indirect. Indirectly, I believe it goes back to something Brother Kerry asked about character development. What I found, this is... What's that?
Oh, no, I said Brother Buck. Yeah.
Go ahead, Hondo.
Yeah, so what I found and what was strange is, and I was not expecting, is that women pick up that you have and can maintain multiple women. They pick it up. At least, even if not on a financial level, they pick it up at least on a level of your emotions, your mental state, and sexually. They pick it up immediately. So it's how you manage that affair. And when I say affair, I don't mean sexual. I mean how you manage, your conversations and your interaction with that woman is key to the whole thing. So, I mean, you just tell them. And I think men need to stop holding off that conversation. You need to tell the woman that once you see that you have some kind of rapport with her, which may be the first conversation. It may be after, you've known her for 3 months. I mean, as long as you're not, I don't think you should be just all out there with other women. She doesn't know that. Now, if she's your only woman, then yeah, you have some time to get to know her, kind of feel her out a little bit to see, if you think she will be open to that. So that's why it's a very delicate situation, and your character is very important. But for the men listening, you can't hold off until y'all been seeing each other for 2 years, and then you married, and then all of a sudden 10 years later, you're like, oh yeah, I've been polygamous. It's like, nah, man. Don't drop it on her that late, because now she doesn't know what to do most of the time. She's like, well, wait a minute, I thought it was just us. See? So I think that it's really a matter, sister, of being just direct. You got to tell them. And I mean, you don't have to be mean or even try to coerce her. Guys, stop trying to convince a woman about polygamy. If she asks you a few questions, then let her ask her questions. But don't try to convince a woman to engage in polygamy with you. You don't have to. If she says she ain't with that, then okay, she's not with it. And don't say anything further about it. Trust me. What I found is that if you don't say anything further and you've been good to her, she will always remember you. Always.
I have a question for Brother Solomon.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I apologize if it cut you off.
Let me say this before. Last call. So after this lady line up, this last call, then we're going to let Brother Solomon close it out. Then we're going to let Nisi close it out for real. So, ma'am, go ahead.
Again, I totally understand the concept of creating a village, of creating a tribe, of having a collective, of doing something outside of what we have been conditioned to do, going back to what we need to do in terms of raising our awareness, raising our families, raising our children, raising new generations. I got that. Would it not be as acceptable in your research and plan and whatever you've developed to have females of all categories to be a part of this family, of this tribe? I don't think anyone should be left out. Why would there not be? Why would there not be aunties and grandmothers and sisters and cousins and all types of females who are able to be in that environment and still be able to raise a nation? That still can happen.
When did I exclude them? I mean, I'm not, a man can't marry his aunt. I said, wait a minute,
I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that, please?
I'm sorry. I said I did not exclude, the extended family. I was just pointing out the people you're actually married to. We're focused on that because of time constraints. But clearly the idea is that, and I kept mentioning family, which doesn't just include the man and the women and the children, but obviously it's going to include everybody else. But that's by default. I didn't think I had to spell that out. But also with the Klan,
I would think that you would because there are so many people who are.
Ma'am, I mentioned clans. When you talk about a clan, you automatically talk about the elders in the family. That's why I didn't think I need to spell it out. That's what a clan is. A clan goes outside the man, his wife or his wives, and the children, and then it talks about the aunts, the uncles, the other elders. I mean, you see, I mentioned clan at least a dozen times during this radio program. Then I mentioned tribes. Clearly, that indicates every single rank and order and individual in the family. So that's. Why would I exclude them?
I don't know. Why would you? You're asking a question. I have no idea. I can't answer your question for you.
Well, what I'm telling you, sister, is that you didn't hear me say clans and tribes, but those automatically include the people that you're talking about there. I was trying to be concise for the sake of time on Brother Kerry's program.
All right, Brother Buck, where we at with it?
Hey, wait a minute. Hey, now I'm listening to everybody all night. I tried to talk. Somebody disturbed me. I want to talk.
This Moon?
Hello?
This Rick Moon?
Yeah, it is.
What's up, brother? Speak your mind.
Yeah, well, anyway, what I wanted to say was that, the brother went over a lot of stuff that, and I'm checking him out, and everything, a lot of stuff that he said makes a lot of sense. Only thing is that, as you saw during the callers and all the kind of arguments we got in, that it's going to be hard to push that type of thing on us. And what I wanted to ask, what my question for the brother is, I understand, that it's been successful for you, but my question is, are you still willing to work with us that don't necessarily want to get into a relationship, and how can we get those relationships going? Because that seems like the only way we're going to straighten this out. I don't think too many people are going to go on the polygamy thing. Although
okay, stop. Hold on. Brothers, now I discussed this with you before the show. We actually went over this. Now, ain't nobody pushing nothing. Over 90% of the world's cultures right now engage in polygyny openly. Over 90%. So we're behind over here. See, I stay on the front runners level. I always go to leaders. I don't deal with people who are behind on a whole bunch of stuff. If I enter into a field, I'm gonna go where the leaders are at. So if I see that over 90% of the world's cultures are engaged in something, and there's low divorce rate, high marriage rate, I'm gonna find out why. Therefore, anybody else who is behind and they don't understand polygyny, well, that's why I wrote a booklet to answer that question. So they can go to my YouTube videos, and I said this. So this is a question, brother, I answered in the beginning. I don't know if you were still driving or what, but I said that. I got over 50 videos on YouTube. I got a booklet that's the second highest ranked booklet on polygamy at Amazon. So that should tell you something right there. All right. So if they want to understand the basics, they can go to that. All this higher level stuff, they can come to me for a consultation or they can wait for the next book. See, so there's no pushing needed because I don't care who engaged in it, who doesn't. I said in the middle of the radio program that I want people to understand it. That way they can, they're going to decide whether or not they engage in it. I don't really care. You see what I mean? It doesn't matter to me whether or not you and your household engage in polygyny, because even in most polygynous societies, the majority of the families are monogamous, but polygyny is accepted, and it is practiced openly. See, this is something I also said to you off air, and this is why I'm a little shocked at the question and the statements made.
Mr. Solomon, is polygamy, is it growing in the United States? Are we seeing more of it, and is it growing also outside of Utah?
Well, it's always been more
Yeah, but who's
It's
doing it? Is it our people or is it Europeans? Because Utah, Mormons, you're talking about Europeans. We're talking about our people.
Okay, brother, hold on, brother. Now, Kara's asked me a question. Now, it's always been practiced outside of Utah, and it's mostly practiced outside of Utah. Most of the people engaged in polygyny here in this country, in this corporate state, are not Mormon or Muslim. See, and, you know, they're just under the radar. You know, there's no need to say, hey, everybody, I'm a polygamist. You know, nobody does that. Polygamists don't do that just even in lands where they accept polygyny. Nobody does that. See, so they're living their lives and they're doing what they're doing. Because, you know, when you're busy building, and whether you're an individual or whether you're in a family, whether you're in a polygynous family, you're going to build silently. You don't need to let everybody know exactly what you're doing. You know, like I have other projects I'm working on, you know, but, you know, most people don't know what those are, and I don't really say it because I'm too busy doing it. You see, it's the same thing with a polygamous family. So Utah only has, you know, they say there's an estimated, you know, approximately about, you know, 30,000 families in Utah engaged in polygyny. But I can take you to New York and find a whole bunch of people engaged in it. You know, I've met people all around the country where I've traveled who are engaged in it, and not one of them are Mormon.
How many our people though, bro? I don't care about what everybody else doing. I'm talking about our people. Are we doing?
Brother, you weren't listening. I just said people.
Now, I heard you say Utah and New York. I ain't heard you talking about what people.
Brother, you know what? Brother Kerry, I'm going to let you take this because I don't, all that energy, I ain't, you know, I'm not here for that. I ain't here arguing about black and white and all that stuff. I ain't here for that.
Brother, I ain't arguing with you. I'm asking you a question. I'm not arguing with you. Hey, I get everything you're saying. I'm just saying that who are you? I'm just asking you, who are you talking about? Are you talking about this is what our people are doing, or this is what somebody else is? That's a simple question, bro.
Brother, you know what? Calm down. Seriously.
African Americans Ain't African Radio. You see our community where we need to go on our communication level. Area code 302. You had something you want to add?
Hello, brothers and sisters out there. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for the brothers, the guests, and all of you all. I just want to ask the speaker. First of all, I really dig. You know, I know about the polygamy thing. I come from a background of first of all, knowing that I was not a daggone African, and then going to like the public food system and the education of the HBCU and all this stuff. So with that being said, fast forward with this polygamy thing, I find it very interesting that when we talk about within our community about polygamy, that the brothers that are so boisterous about this, and I'm not negating that because I think everybody has their own flavor out of the flavors that they want from, like, whether 36 flavors or whatever. But on the same page with this talk of polygamy, I find it very interesting and odd that on the same platform where the people that put out polygamy within our system, I do not hear the brothers, my beloved brothers, putting out also the thing of polyandry. Because when it comes to like researching so-called your ancestry, your true heritage, whoever you are, my brothers and sisters, Jones, Smith, whatever the flavor that the I don't want to call them settlers, I want to call them like invaders that came upon this land. That I don't want to get too deep, but I will. But I'm just saying, on the same page, respect to everyone on this thing, on this platform, but on the same page, page.
Ma'am, you had a question for the guest? You had a question?
Yeah, the question is, the deeper I dig into like the history of the so-called like people of color in this country, I find that the digger I deep into archives that they just recently released, I find that certain colonial, quote unquote, colonial laws from the invaders, they have things where if you check the historical documents that they disclose, that there was a time period where the matriarch was in charge of the land and all the stuff. So basically, it's the same thing to me where it goes back to mama's baby, daddy's maybe. So with the same page, just as we promote this polygamy, I mean, what's going on with also promoting the polyandry perspective of this spectrum, where we have like the gods and the goddesses in the museums across the United States, but when you travel outside the United States, you see in their museums the goddesses are back in the corner and everything. So I just bring it all back to say, if we're going to talk polygamy or polygamy, pardon me, it would be nice to hear the people also advocate on the same platform, polygamy and also polyandry. Because I'm not talking about a free love fest, but on the same page, the more I dig in my archives, that's what it seems to be amongst our people. So if we're about building up our people and the nation, let's also not neglect polygamy. And also, with that polygamy thing, you also had what we call polyandry, where women also had you know what they put out here like today is like
we covered that in the
court.
beginning of the show. We covered that in the beginning of the show.
Well, you know what? My apologies. I was only able to check in like when I checked in, because I know this is a hot show, and whoever they bring on, I know they hot. So I know you hot too. So no disrespect to you, but I'm just checking on now. So I'm just saying on the same page. Polygamy, polyandry. Look at here, real talk. We dealing with human emotions, psychological.
Thank you.
You know, so my apologies. There. Let me step back in my lane. I'm backing up right now. Thank you, and keep doing what you do.
Thank you, love. 404. You had something you want to last question. 404. You had something you want to add?
No, I'm just listening. I enjoyed the conversation tonight. So,
thank you, ma'am.
But thank you,
Mr. Solomon.
Good night, 404.
You guys want to like swap email addresses or something? What?
Real.
Hey, Mr. Solomon. Polygamy. As an economic weapon, I see what you're saying. And the sister that called from 813, I see what she's saying too. I think we're saying the same thing. I just think the way we've all been brought up under different ideologies in different places, that's what's got us popping heads with each other, talking the same thing. So as an economic weapon, one more time, Mr. Solomon, how can that be helpful to the so-called African American community?
Don't have any women in public property, meaning that they are long-term unmarried. That actually causes health problems. You reduce that. You ensure that every child has a father in the home. You also allow women who are on the menses the ability to have someone to take their place in the household as well. The man can expand his lineage, his legacy. Of course, you also have more protection because there's more people involved. There's a greater capacity to build kinship bonds with other families, therefore forming clans and tribes. It's easier to gain and maintain financial and other forms of material wealth. It reduces the stress involved in not being able to outsource or call upon someone for assistance for work in the house. It's also easier to stay out of the 9-to-5 rat race You're able to educate the children at home in your particular religion or faith or spirituality, and you can teach them the values and goals of your particular family's culture, just to name a few.
Well, cool. Nisi, Mr. Solomon, I want to say thank you for joining us, brother. What you dropped, I know people like you gave some concrete information tonight. You gave some concrete answers to some of the problems that we face. People like you are normally attacked because they speak truths that we really don't want to hear, we really try to ignore, or we really don't want to do anything. But you gave some concrete evidence of things that, if we practiced, would solve a lot of our ills in the community. So I want to say thank you for that. Can you give the people your information so they can call if they want to get the book, if they want to contact you for more questions? Could you give them your address or your email address or contact information?
Sure. You all can actually find my book on Amazon. It's called The Polygamous Papers. That's the first book of The Polygamous Papers, The Introduction to Polygamous Culture and Its Principles, Pitfalls, and Ethics. The second book is Volume 2, Polygamy is Economic Warfare, a dossier on family rule and government that debuts this summer in 2015, September specifically. Y'all need to reach me. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. And I appreciate you for having me on too, Brother Ken.
Brother, thank you for being on, sharing your views. Nisi, take us to the house.
All right, my brother. Thank you, Brother Hondo Solomon, for being on. We appreciate it. Thank you, all the callers and our families. We're on this thing trying to get together. We're trying to get some cohesion and stitch ourselves together with this very, very broken quilt. So what we have is delusional American nostalgia, which is poured on top of inaccurate American history, reinforcing a fallacy that Europeans supremely earned the right to define societal standards, redefine our culture through forced assimilation, and who gets to belong. It is not too late. We can move mountains if our people can only understand the message of who they are relative to this grand sphere, lineage, history, and continuity. One love, peace.
Cool. Rick, what you want to say tonight to the people getting out of here?
I just wanted to say I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. I did. But one thing I did want to say was, the brother put out some good points and everything, and I thank him for coming on the show. But like I said earlier, I can't wait to see his book because I want to see what he wrote in it. Because I want to see how this, all this stuff may be, I don't know. I'm not into polygamy. I've never studied it, so I don't know. I'm trying to find out. But I hope this brother will show us, in his book or whatever, show us if this stuff go to our people, because that's what I want to know. I don't follow the leaders like he does. I don't follow the leaders because the leaders right now all are European that's in this world. So I'm not following them. So I want to see what's